Batman, issue 125. Chip Zdarsky writing with Jorge Jimenez on the art. So this is the start of a brand new run. Chip's coming in. Obviously, he's been doing the Night, the miniseries, but this is him taking over the main book. And there's a lot of big things going down here. It kind of drops us in the middle of a story in a weird way, where there's already these like targeted killings happening of the elite, specifically the elite who were born into wealth. Like it's Penguin who's targeting them, but he's not targeting anyone who earned their money from scratch. It's only people who were born, I think he says, with like over 5 million already to their name.
Yeah, but this, he calls them the Silver Spooners.
Yeah.
You know, and I just want to say real quick too, I read the first 2 trades of Chip's Daredevil, and I'm so glad I have before this, because he has a knack for the city kind of storytelling, right? Where there's a lot of stuff in motion, and he balances it all very well. Like, I feel like coming off of Tynan, and you know, who had a very distinct way of writing Batman and doing things, this already just feels like Chip's Batman. And I don't know if that's because of the Night, that we're kind of used to how he writes Bruce, but just the way that he drops us into Gotham in the mid of everything, and we're already kind of familiar with some of the stuff. It's a skill that this guy has, and I'm really, really glad he's doing Batman.
Yeah. I don't love the issue. I mean, I generally like a lot of stuff that it does, but there's definitely concerns I have in here, and there's definitely some moments that felt a little off to me. And I don't know. I mean, as we go through it, I'll sort of point some of them out, but it wasn't like a home run. Like, part of me, because I think his first issue of Daredevil's better, and I think I was coming into this expecting like the same thing for Batman, where it was just going to be instantly, oh, this feels special, and this feels like it's doing these things for the character. And it may become that, but there's definitely some things that don't quite click with me. Some stuff that it feels like we've shifted a little bit to serve what he wants to do with Batman. I mean, it does reference other things in recent continuity. It does do that, absolutely does. But some characterizations feel a little bit different. And I would say that the villain that's teased by the end, I'm not entirely sure I'm excited about.
That's where it went off the rails for me. I was enjoying everything to that. When I got to that character, I was kind of like, what are we doing? And it could work out. Like, I could be just jumping the gun. But based off of just this one issue, you know, I did like the Penguin stuff, though, because it's been a while since Penguin's really had a moment to, like, really be greasy. And just him doing this, and just him saying that he's going after the people that were born into it because they're not trying to make the city better. It's very griftery. It's very much like, well, no, he's the same. Like, he's
a hypocrite. Yeah, he was borrowing money. Yeah.
But you know, people are just gonna jump on it, and they're like, oh, well, they're killing rich people. Doesn't impact me, you know. And it's almost like he gets a public support on it at a certain point, and yeah,
because the book starts with like a scene that's, you know, from the past. It says another time, and you see Alfred in the cave, and he hears like some beeping in the cave, and that's just all it is, just this little tease. And then there's a sort of like nightmare scenario scene where a lot of the Bat family are dead, and there's like multiple Jokers sitting on top of them. And you're like, what is this?
Like, is this or is this the 3 Jokers?
Yeah, what are we doing here, Zdarsky? Come on. And then Bruce wakes up. It was a nightmare. And I got a little bit worried because the first thing that his narration says in this book is, I never dream unless I want to. I use my subconscious to piece together a mystery. And I thought, Zdarsky, are you really going to try and tell me that Bruce is choosing to use his subconscious to solve mysteries while he's asleep? Because that is too far-fetched for me to
there's some other stuff that is borderline because Batman, but unless it keeps happening, I'm going to give it. This happened under Tynan too, where Tynan kept giving Bruce all these new toys, you know.
On this specific line, though, the very next thing he says, though, the mystery is my future. And I sort of got relieved because, okay, he's not saying he's literally solving cases. He's more being fruity with his wording than he's actually saying he's doing anything. But
and that's where I have to be like, okay, don't jump the gun, you know.
But even I got worried. I was like, oh no, that's too far. Like, no, that's superhuman. Don't
don't do that.
So he calls Selina, and so this guy, so there's a bit of an awkward bit of tension here where he's phoning Selina because he's feeling, well, not scared.
He needs someone.
He needs someone.
He needs someone.
he phones Selena, and there's a little bit of like a sort of gulp moment when she's with someone else, and it's kind of this awkward thing because that relationship, at least as it was, is over for now, and he has to kind of accept that and move on, and it makes him feel kind of sad. Is this this douchebag we didn't like from the Catwoman book?
I think it is. That's the only guy I could think of.
See, that's upsetting.
Yeah,
but it's him. Anyone else?
Yeah, I want to give Jimenez credit here is the way that him and the letterer make that work. It is almost like a if we're watching a movie and they're cutting across the phone conversation, which I think in a comic is just it's easy just to make it clean, with the what's being heard and what's being said, but the fact that it keeps jumping back and forth, so you're reading what Batman says and then you're hearing it also when it jumps to Catwoman. Like, it's just a unique skill that I haven't seen utilized in comics.
Yeah, they are very good. The way it sells the body language of her getting uncomfortable and saying she has to go, and him being sad as he's like, yeah, it's okay, as he's looking out at the dawn. And it's the idea that he's retreating more to Batman, and that's something the Bat family bring up to him. Tim brings it up later that he's just being Batman all the time. He's not really being Bruce Wayne much. The idea that he's waking up and he's already like, oh, it's time to go to work. It's time to be Batman. So there's a killer in a building. The art here is phenomenal. Batman comes into the building, and there's just that thing where he's down the end of the hallway, and then you see the close up in the darkness of his eyes. This actually reminded me a lot of the recent movie when he walks out of the darkness. Yeah, it's very much that kind of moment.
Me too.
But it looks great in the comic, and he runs down, throws the guy out the window, but obviously grapples him so that he doesn't fall. But then he goes down the stairs and finds out that the family who live here are already been killed. And he then runs back up, pulls the guy in, grabs him and screams at him and says, "Who sent you? Who's behind this?" And then we get Penguin's like sort of speech, his monologue as he's recording into a camera, why he's doing what he's doing. Yeah, and then that's when Tim comes in. So obviously Zdarsky's probably a Tim fan because he's choosing Tim. Well, I say that. By the end of the issue, he's kind of maybe on death's door. So maybe not.
We sure? Yeah, we sure? Which also, because of what happens and knowing that there's going to be a Tim book that I'm not going to read because the art, I was kind of like, oh, maybe this will be easy just to say goodbye to Tim right now.
Oh dear. Bruce has still been invited to a gala thing, and he's like, okay, that's probably where Penguin's going to strike because, well, there's going to be a lot of rich people there. It makes sense. It's easy. It's simple. Some interesting bits here. He talks about how the hardest thing about protecting this city is that the city actually wants to die. Like, they're all, even though they're directly targeted under threat, they're all going to go to this gala anyway. It's kind of this, like, people are kind of stupid.
Yeah, they have to. They have to keep up appearances, and it's, I did like the commentary on that too. People are just
it's a little bit pandemic commentary.
A little bit, I would say it's a lot of it. So they know that there's dangers, and yet they're still going to go because they feel that they have to. It's like the people that were complaining they can't go to restaurants during a global pandemic. And I was like, just all right, give it time, all right?
Yeah. So one of the victims of the previous death was actually someone that Bruce knew. It was like someone he used as Bruce Wayne to like sort of play up the playboy part of his persona back when he first came back to Gotham, and it's kind of like a symbolic thing that part of him is mostly went away. So he's making an effort to go to this gala. He's got a date. He's still invited despite the fact that he has no money. Because I was actually thinking about that. Is like, oh, does that mean he's like Penguin's going to come after Bruce soon? I was like, oh no, wait, no, he lost all his money. No, so
he lost his money.
I guess it doesn't matter.
But I do like the idea that Bruce Wayne, the person, is still like, because we know from Detective Comics that everyone knows that he doesn't have as much money as he used to. So him still showing up to this is like one of those things that you have to keep up appearances. But it's also good cover for Batman.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Bruce and Tim working together at this gala to try and find whatever the plan is. It's probably to set off some gas. Penguin showing up with his little breather on as he's threatening all the rich people. Like, all this I generally liked. I'm not like a huge fan of the like Batman in the dress shirt and like
I love it
with the bat cowl on. Whatever.
It's so stupid, and I love it.
Yeah,
like it's just a great visual. But yeah, it was nice seeing Batman and Robin working together in a Batman book.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Because I can't, like, we saw them team up in Robin during Shadow War, but it was Damian. But I can't think of the last time I saw Tim and Bruce. I almost said Tim and Dick, but Tim and Bruce team up, and it was very nice. And just the stuff that Bruce is saying about Tim, like he's the Robin that wanted to be Robin. And again, like you said, it seems like Zdarsky is a Tim fan, which is cool.
Yeah, cool Tim fan, but a Tim fan all the same.
Yeah.
But so there's a bit of a swerve here where Batman's convinced, okay, Cobblepot, I've got you, but then it's revealed, oh no, wait, you're not Cobblepot, and it's Clayface, right? Which is fine on its own, but I did think it was a bit weird that in this issue, Batman gets duped twice. So here, and then later when he goes to Penguin at the hospital, and it's all a trap to like set Batman up. I thought it was a little bit weird to have Batman essentially get in over his head, and maybe that's the point, is that he's in over his head and he's making mistakes, but it was a bit weird to do it like back to back like that, really quickly. It felt a bit repetitive, but he, and obviously a slight personal thing here is that I really like Clayface's redemption in Detective Comics, so I don't really like that he's just like a straight villain again. But I mean,
I don't like that he's being used as a henchman for Penguin.
Yeah,
like he's better than that. Like
But regardless, he threatens Clayface with some sort of like chemical that's in his stream. He's got a detonator for it.
Bruce was bluffing, right?
I mean, you assume he was bluffing.
Because if not, that's a very because of Batman. That I injected you with a formulation that turned you explosive, and I could detonate it now. And I was like, if he's bluffing, this works because he's tricking Basil, who, as we know, the longer he stays in his clay form, the more he loses his, human intelligence, but yeah, if he really did this, I'm just like, oh man, I don't know. That took me out a bit.
Tim gets shot by one of the henchmen as an explosion goes off, and I did like the visual, because Batman says to Clayface, protect everyone from falling debris, so he's like, sure, and he sort of becomes like a big moth, like sort of shape, and just sort of like shields them all. But what this really becomes about, though, is Tim's been shot in the neck. Bruce has to like grab him, run out to the Batmobile. Is racing to the hospital because he needs, emergency treatment. They don't have time to go to Leslie. They don't have time to go to the cave or anything like that. He has to go straight to the hospital. So he takes off his cowl, takes off some of the Robin suits, so it's not obvious who he is. And that's quite a nice swerve here, actually, because you hear the doctor saying, how's he looking? Oh, he probably won't survive the night. And you think he's talking about Tim because we're in a hospital right after we've just went to the hospital with Bruce and Tim. And then you see Batman in the corner and he looks, he's scowling, and then you realize that we're actually in the hospital room of the Penguin, which was a little bit confusing because obviously that's where Penguin was for a lot of killing time. So it was giving me like a weird, I need to keep track of which story I'm on here now.
Yeah, me too. Because I was like, wait, wait, no, this didn't happen. This wasn't him getting beat to shit by the Riddler. No. That was killing time. So.
Yeah. So no, it turns out he's just sick and he's dying. And he kind of like sort of says that he assumes Batman's a billionaire, or at least has a billionaire who's like funding him, because it's the only way to explain like a lot of what he is. I will say some of the art here is really good. Like, see when Penguin gets angry and like sits up and yells in the hospital bed. Yeah, like that is a demented face that he's got going.
he's also Burton-esque in Jimenez drawing him, where he's almost more of a creature than a person. Yeah, especially in that scene.
Yeah, I don't mind that general look. I mean, I actually want him to be part beast, though. Like, like, he's still just an arms dealer to me, but...
and that's what I mean, is that we've gotten a lot of him, like, there's a little bit of exaggerated features, but here, on Death's door, he's very beastly, very bird-like, and almost, his teeth are sharp, and, his beak is up there, but yeah, it was a very grotesque image.
Yep. So... Yeah, it talks about how, the guy that Bruce knew, he talks about how he was actually this awful guy at the Iceberg Lounge who would pick on the girls who worked there. He was a complete piece of shit. He says Batman's out of touch. But then ultimately, Penguin kills himself with a pill, and then the nurse comes in, and the whole thing is meant to look like Batman killed him. This is like Penguin's last hurrah. So Penguin dies seemingly in this issue. I mean, how long that sticks? I mean, place your bets, but
there is a dark crisis currently ongoing where we could rewrite things.
Yeah, very conveniently, actually, quite quickly. Yeah. But Penguin dies and has effectively made it look like Batman killed him, And, it's weighing at Bruce, although Bruce is trying to play it off as, it's actually kind of helping in a weird way. Everyone's scared of me again because they think I might kill them.
That was another thing that I was like, okay, Chip, this is the stuff that I like that he's bringing to it is that, the bad guys are giving me space because they don't want to die, which I like. Because in other times that we've seen Bruce do that, it's almost like he's beating himself up because he doesn't want people to think he's a murderer.
Yeah.
But here, him leaning into it was a nice touch.
Yeah, so he goes back to the Batcave, and that beeping starts again, and this is present day now, because it says now. I will say, it was a bit weird to me that it said that there and not when it first went to the present day, because it made me question what was the rest of this story in present day, since it said now here. But, I mean, I think it was. It's just making it clear the bit in the cave is now. And it's actually this robot called Failsafe that kind of, like, activates... kind of hate it, honestly, in terms of its design. So I can see what they're doing here, right? So the whole idea, of course, is that, and Penguin didn't necessarily plan for this because he wouldn't know about Failsafe, but the idea being is that Batman himself, in a sort of Tower of Babel kind of thing, has got a contingency plan if he goes too far. And it's this robot called Failsafe. I'm assuming it's him that did this. I mean, if it wasn't, we'll find out, but I'm assuming it's him. And because in the news and stuff, it's like everything's saying Batman's killed someone, this robot is activated, it's going to come and stop Batman.
The algorithm's been tripped.
Yeah. And obviously, we know he's not actually killed anyone, so it's unjust. But at the same time, everything Tim was saying about how he's let the Bruce Wayne persona go and he's just being Batman all the time, the idea that he does need an intervention right now is true, but not necessarily what this robot's going to do. So I can kind of see what it's doing with its story, and I appreciate the threads. I saw the robot and thought this looks stupid. It's so New 52 looking at me.
It does, but... I also like the idea of Chip Zdarsky writing Batman versus Terminator.
Mate, if that's what it ends up being, then sure, I'll take it.
And that's what I'm talking about, like the potential that's going on here. I could be wrong, and it could disappoint, but so far, I've been in good hands because he did the Teardrop story with Red Hood, right? In
I think that was him.
Legends?
Yeah, I think that was him.
Yeah. So far, I'm like all of the stuff I've read that he's written. It's been pretty good.
Yeah, and this isn't badly written per se. There was just enough little things that I sort of pointed out throughout that were kind of, I was like, okay, this isn't perfect. And the robot at the end was kind of the biggest thing that I didn't like. But if you're right, if this plays like Terminator hunting Batman, and that's how it actually is told, I could be very into that. This could very quickly win me over. But right now, this reveal, it didn't get me excited when this robot popped up at the end. I just kind of went, lol.
Yeah. Well, the whole Terminator thing popped up to me as we started talking. So again, with the the more we talk about things, the more my brain gets going, and I just
I think my reaction to the end was comics.
Well, I went Failsafe. Come on, there's another because Batman thing. But again, if we get this was meant to stop him if he goes too far, and it's like a Terminator that's not going to be stopped. That's got to go guns blazing per se to bring Batman in. I do like that idea.
Yeah. Of course, I'm assuming that Penguin didn't know about this and it's an accidental thing that's happening as a result of what he's done.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know if he would know, but maybe someone knew about it, and it was like a kind of someone, said, hey, frame him for murder, because now... obviously, we've had Batman being framed for murder, or Bruce Wayne being framed for murder before, so... This is obviously a current continuity thing as opposed to an all-time thing, but that's okay. That's what it is.
Yeah, you had the whole Bruce Wayne fugitive story arc that was Rucka and Brubaker.
Yeah,
I believe.
And they are of course is very good. We pointed out some exceptional panels as we were going through it.
Yeah, Jimenez is just good. Batman, I liked his Justice League stuff with Snyder, but his Batman with Tynan and now Chip is it's really good. I don't have a lot of faults in the art. Like you said, the robot design, Failsafe's design's a little bit, like you said, New 52-ish, but maybe that's the point.
It just looks so generic. It's got like a head, kind of like it's got like a Red Hood looking head, to be honest, and then the rest of it's just this really generic design that you've seen this in like a million comic books by this point. This type of robot.
The head reminded me of IG-88 from Star Wars, the bounty hunter robot. It's just kind of up and around, and it's different. And maybe a little humanoid head would have been okay, but I don't know.
I'm sorry, I fell asleep. You mentioned Star Wars in the past.
Yeah, it's okay. I knew you would.
Yeah. There's a reason why the Terminator design's so iconic, though, is because it's just a metal skeleton, and that looks cool. This, angled anime approach that a lot of comic book robots seem to take.
Yeah, and I feel that's the influence on the artist, because I feel like we get this with Jimenez a lot. There is almost an anime tinge to his style, for better or for worse. Most of the time it works. Like, a lot of his expressions on Harley end up coming across very manga-esque. But it works. Like, he makes it work. Are you really... sounds like you complain. It's not. But yeah.
Yeah, there's a backup as well. It's called Two Birds, One Throne. And this is Zdarsky as well writing this, so it is kind of possibly relevant as time goes on. Belen Ortega is on the art for the backup. And this first part is basically the Iceberg Lounge. So the penguins died, and the Iceberg Lounge is kind of like... what was his name here? Finbar Sullivan.
Who was also in the Catwoman story when we first started reading. Because I only read one page of this, and I forgot to go back before we recorded the show. A lot
of synergy, but he it basically shows up with some guys with guns and says, "I'm running this place now. You work for me now." Catwoman shows up, kind of takes him down, says, "Nope, you're not doing that." And then there's like gang leaders show up, and the whole thing's a bit of a weird. And then eventually the Underbroker shows up with a big robot dude called the Executor, who's a lawyer. He's a lawyer robot. And Penguin had a will, and until that will is complete, like, no one can take over the Iceberg Lounge. Gingerbeard guy just kind of says, "Fine, I'll wait until the will's read, but then I'm going to come and take it by force anyway. I'll just wait until after that." Because the Executor says, "Yeah, once we've fulfilled these obligations, we don't care what happens, but we have to, do the will and do all this." It's all a bit... It's okay. Like, I wasn't super in love with it. The big thing though is that Catwoman goes home at the end, and she's just minding her business, and the Executor shows up at her door and wants her help because there's places he can't go because he's a big hulking metal robot, and because of that, he needs her. And she's like, "I'm not a bounty hunter. I don't want to help you." But then he's like, "I'll pay you 500 grand." And she's like, "All right, okay." What am I doing here? Who am I finding? And it turns out that there are 10 people that he needs her to find, and all 10 of them are Penguin's children.
Oh snap! He's got a whole nest.
That's the ending. So that's what the backup's going to be. It's going to be Catwoman hunting down Penguin's presumably illegitimate kids. I would assume. So yeah, it's okay. It's kind of an interesting thing. They're sort of like doing something in the backup that plays off like the ramifications of Penguin dying. It makes sense. It's a nice little bit of Gotham taster after the main story.
Damn, I'm wishing I had time to read this. I got holed up at work.
Well,
went to go back, and then
it won't be hard to catch up. It's not a long.
Yeah, no, it's sitting there. That's why I read the one page and I saw Finbar Sullivan, and I got called up to go do something. And I was like, oh, that's the guy from when we read that issue of the Team Howard. I am
shocked you remember that.
It's a ginger dude. Of course I'm going to remember.
Shocked you to remember it, but yeah, it's okay. Like, I like the issue overall. I like the main story more than the backup, certainly. But there's some, like, it wasn't like... I was kind of coming at this expecting, like, the start of a special run that was, it was going to feel like just a great running start immediately. And instead, I'm like, okay, no, this was a lot of solid stuff in here. There's potential, but it needs to still simmer. It still needs to... I need more issues. I need to see where it's building to. I need to see what it's doing.
That's how I felt about the first issue of The Night. And it's really coming to it on its own.
That's true. And that literally just had its best issue with issue 6 or 7, whatever the last one was.
Yeah.
Was its best issue so far. So if it does something similar to that where it just keeps getting better, then by all means, you'll not hear me complain. But
I mean, I was gonna drop Batman for the first time in a very long time until they announced Chip. And I was like, all right, well, here, I'm gonna keep going.
You're gonna threaten that at the end of every run, and then
I do it, and then they keep putting people I like.
Yes, and what are you giving Batman 125?
I'm gonna give this I'm gonna give it an 8.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna use it. I'm going 7.5. I think there's just a few little things and little narration moments, or the robot ending, which just felt a bit silly on its own. That right now I'm going 7.5. I'm hopeful though. I am hopeful. I was kind of expecting it to just be like, like the first issue of Taylor's Nightwing, where I'm just like, yes. Like get it in me right now. Much like Zdarsky's Daredevil, which the very first issue was like one of the best first issues I've read in the last decade. So
yeah, But I mean, that's a high standard. I mean, that's a that's hard to do.
But it's a high standard that he set for himself, which is why it's I think a bit fairer than